What's up, Bug Houdini in the garage? Today we are going to make a shift knob for my Subaru Outback, my new daily driver. I'm going to try to let this video talk for itself and just do some minimal narration. I will give a few disclaimers at the beginning. One, I'm a hack. I'm not a woodworker. My father is a master craftsman with wood. I picked up a few things, but I am a total hack. So if my methods offend, I apologize. The two woods I'm using, what you just saw, that dark one was Wenge wood, also known as African rosewood, and this is Brazilian cherry, both very hard woods with extremely dynamic grains. Now I'm going to sit back and let you watch. Anyone that could not tell, my motto with wood glue is you literally cannot have too much. Just glob it on there. I'm really not kidding about the wood glue thing. You're better off just globbing it on there, let it squish out the sides, clean it up at the end. But wood glue is really good at getting into the pores of the wood, filling in cracks, imperfections, so. I'm using the jigsaw here because I happen to have a jigsaw. If you want to attempt a project like this, there's no reason you can't get this done with, oh, did I say jigsaw? I meant bandsaw. I'm using a bandsaw here because I have a bandsaw. There's no reason you can get this done with a jigsaw or a coping saw or a different handsaw or a really sharp butter knife, whatever you got. You're gonna notice I actually chipped out a little piece of the bottom, but I'm able to sand that out later, so it's no big deal. This project was a lot of sanding, a whole lot of sanding. I spent a lot of time on this 4x36 belt sander, and then a whole lot of hand sanding. But personally, I think that's the joy of woodworking. Sanding is really what brings out the beauty of the wood, you know? Wood has so much more life than metal. I like metalworking, and I'm better at metalworking, but the character you can get out of some wood, especially if you can get your hands on some crazy exotic woods like this. I'm lucky enough that my dad has a real big stash of this stuff that he occasionally will let me raid. Now, I actually lost some footage, but if you didn't notice, I took a hex nut and I ground 4 of the 6 corners off to make a little cat eye, and that's what I'm going to sink into this shift knob to attach it to the shifter post. I did that so I didn't have to thin out the 2 longer sides. I didn't want to risk it cracking. And then I'm using JB Weld because I wanted something nice and sturdy, nice and strong. Epoxy would have been okay. Wood glue definitely would not. I'm not too worried about cleaning up the excess JB weld because the bottom's going to get sanded anyway. I really wanted to make sure that nut was tight in there and there were no holes or gaps. So what we've done up to this part is get a generic shape. I knew the generic shape I wanted, but I did not have a full plan. And so from here on out, I'm kind of just winging it and going with my gut as things come and go. I'm chalking it up in the drill press there to round out the bottom third. Could totally be done by hand. This was something I wanted to try. It worked all right. At the end of the day, I probably could have done it just as quickly by hand, but it makes for better footage, right? Here's where I'm getting real ambitious. I decided I kind of wanted a thumb recess to make it more form-fitting to the hand, so threw the 80 grit on there and really risked it. This is the kind of maneuver that, in my experience, can take a project that's going real well and you try to add that extra 10% of flair, and you kind of fork the whole thing up, and then you're sitting there wondering why I didn't just leave it, but somehow in this case it turned out okay. Again, I'm kind of just drawing things out so that I have some guide when I'm working on the sander. I like to work from the hip. I don't like to have a plan at the beginning, but if you totally shoot from the hip, you know, you can end up with a lot of waste. I've screwed up a lot of projects, so a little bit of planning goes a long way. In my monkey with a toolbox opinion, anyway. Like I said, that was an 80 grit. This is I think a 120, a real used 120. I'm just sort of smoothing things out before I take her over for hand sanding. Anyone who's mortified by how dirty my shop is, I really got nothing to say. Somehow the chaos helps me focus. So now we're getting into the hand sanding. Here's a little side note. That sandpaper I'm using was like $3 for a pack of 4 at Harbor Freight. There are a lot of things Harbor Freight is really good for. Zip ties, one, people always talk about that. I personally like their screwdrivers. Sandpaper is the worst thing you can buy from Harbor Freight. This sandpaper was so crappy. I've never used worse. I couldn't put it. I have a random orbital sander and a little square finish sander. It tears through immediately. So don't buy your sandpaper at Harbor Freight. End of public service announcement. You'll see the lines are really starting to come out of this thing now. The hardest part of this whole project was getting the perpendicular grind marks out of that thumb recess. You saw I had to go perpendicular across the grain to get, you know, the design I wanted, but getting those 80 grit lines out took a lot of work. A lot of work with the 220. I was able to get it. You'll see. This is why I'm chalking it up right there so I can just work on it. Try to get the little lines out, because otherwise you compromise the grain there. And that, with the contours, you know, is kind of the most interesting part of the whole piece. So it was worth the time to put in there. I don't know, maybe I would have done it differently if I could go back. Maybe I would have tried to do it with the 120, but the 80 did make light work of it. And I was eventually able to get it. So like I said, I did the whole thing. This is probably an hour of sanding with the 220. Maybe not a full hour, but pretty darn close, 45 minutes. And then once that's done, you're gonna see in a second, we are going to switch over. There you go, the 320. 320 is all I took it to on this one. Could have gone to 400, could have gone past 400. You could very easily, especially with hardwoods like this, you could polish this to a darn mirror. I didn't feel that was necessary. I think you can see with the final product, this was more than enough. I was able to get all the big, you know, sanding marks out, and it really gives a very uniform, kind of warm, rounded, comfortable feel to it. But Christ, was it a lot of sanding. Chose to go with boiled linseed oil. If you know me, you know that's kind of a weird choice. I usually prefer teak oil, especially for something like this. Well, these woods, I would usually use teak oil because it kind of hardens more than boiled linseed oil does. But I like boiled linseed on like axe handles, and I figure this is going to be in the hand all the time, so I'm winging it. I'm giving it a shot. I did 2 coats of boiled linseed oil. That's what you're looking at here. This is the second coat, and then you wipe her down and you kind of buff it with the paper towel there, and that's what your finished result is going to be. I may do another coat or 2. I haven't decided yet, but she looks pretty good right there. I like the muted luster. You can tell it's got something on it, but it's not overpowering. It's letting the wood speak for itself. It did darken up that cherry really nice without killing all the grain in the Wenge. I couldn't be happier with it. I know it's unconventional. It's probably not for you, but it is 100% what I was looking for. I think right there, those contours I think they're awesome. Here's how I put it on. I put a nut down that's going to serve two purposes. One, it's going to act as a jam nut so I can get my angle exactly right. I like my shifter kind of angled away from me and with the thumb recess. And then two, it was the perfect size for the shifter boot to fit over. So there you go. There's the shift knob for my 2009 daily driver Subaru Outback. A boring car now made slightly more interesting. If you got any questions or comments, by all means, leave me a comment down there in the squawk boxes. Let me know what you think about it. Do you like my wood choice? Do you like my design? Do you like my technique? What woods would you have used? I wouldn't mind making one like this with the cherry with like purple heart or something, but I'm super happy with this. Seriously, leave me a comment down there in the squawk boxes. Let me know what you think, what you would have done differently. If you like the video, that's common sense. Subscribe to the channel. Maybe go check out another one of our videos or our website, monkeywithatoolbox.com. As always, thanks for watching. See you next time.